going to talk about in this section is the actual process. So we've gone over the people, some things to say, some places to think about where sellers are hiding, so we can reach out to them and chat with them and make their life easier. That's ultimately the goal here, is for you, the professional, to be able to help people that you know, people that know you, through this process. So we will actually go through just the visualization of a listing roadmap. And we all know that real estate flows in just a single straight line. Nothing ever happens. There are no real big hurdles or hiccups or anything that happen. You meet with the client, you close, and everything's amazing from that point, right? Well, obviously not. So we'll look at a roadmap, but know that this road can be winding. Sometimes it does go in a straight line, which we love those too. But that's what we're here for. We're here to help the client through all of these. So for the listing roadmap, they're interviewing agents. You're helping them price their home, prep their home, market the property, coming soon, offers, due diligence under contract, appraisal, repairs, final walk, closing, and the follow-up. All easy, right? And it may not be an exactly easy process, but it's also not something to be nervous about or afraid of if you are a newer agent. So this is a general overview of the process, just to give you some ideas of it if you haven't been through that before, and maybe if you just haven't ever seen it laid out, in that type of a time frame. You still know it, but maybe you just haven't seen it. But what we want to talk about is keeping this simple and keeping it in a tight 3-step process for our process here in our listing. It's going to be the pre-listing, the presentation, and then prep and market. So again, we had 2 P's earlier for the whole thing, the people in the process, and 3 P's here: pre-listing, presentation, and prep and market. So we're going to think about our whole process just boiling down to those 3 things. So in the pre-listing, now, pre-listing can mean a lot of different things to you. You may already have a process down. Your pre-listing is, you do your homework on the property, you make your cloud CMA, you do some drive-throughs through the neighborhood maybe, or something like that. Or maybe it's just you met with the seller, you talked with them, or you know them, right? Like it could be a friend or family. You already know the property. You already know all of that stuff. One of the things, that I know that we all know this here, that separates you from being a true professional from maybe not true professional is, regardless if it's your friend or family or coworker or new person that you've never met, you want to make your process something that you just know and that you have for all of your clients, right? And if you do that and you have continuity, it's going to be easier for you, but also when they meet with their friends, like we talked about earlier, it's going to be something where they say, I was wowed, and I'm their, cousin or sister or brother or whatever, right? Expecting that they wouldn't give you, necessarily that highest professional level of service, just because they already knew you had the business, right? But you doing that and having that process is just going to help them be easier about referring you to other people. So the pre-listing that we look at here today may be different than what you've done before. And it may be something that you've done half of or a hybrid of, or you may already do it. And if you already do it, I'd love to know, kind of your story on this. But what we want to think about in the pre-listing is keep this in mind. Success is where preparation and opportunity meet, right? So we really want to prepare, because when it comes time to have that opportunity with that seller, we really want to shine. And so the first step that I would highly recommend in this is to have questions for the seller before the appointment, right? A lot of times we have questions for the seller at the appointment or at some other point in the process. But if you have these questions answered and you ask these questions before the appointment, then all of the work can be done while you're researching the property, while you're thinking about getting to that place and actually meeting that seller. So especially more along the lines of you've never actually been to this person's home. These are some great questions, and maybe where you don't know this person just on a tremendous best friend level. These are some questions that can really help you. So we'll go through. You'll have this sheet as a download resource, so don't worry about writing all of these down. You'll have them. You can take the questions you like and use. You can add your questions in, whatever you want to do. But number one, just why are you selling? Right? That's a big question. You can learn a lot from that. Have you decided where you're moving? So now you're not only talking about the sell, but also being able to help them buy, but also helping them with that transition, right? What is your ideal time frame to move out of your current home? Have you completed any updates? So this is going to help you when you go to your CMA. Maybe their property was sold, 3, 4 years ago. You can find some information in the MLS, and maybe not. But either way, if you know they've done updates, now you have a little bit better idea than just walking in and saying, "Oh, you put quartz in." Now you know because they told you, and now you can help price that into your cloud CMA before you get to the property. This is a question you can kind of hybrid this however you want. You can format it for you. But if you were to rate the condition from 1 to 10, with 10 being immaculate, what would you rate the condition of your home? And if they say 7, 8, 9, whatever it is, what would make it a 10 in the buyer's eyes? So this is kind of one of those questions that you're setting them up for. Hey, listen, I'm going to look at your home through the buyer's eyes. They're going to be buyers coming to your home. What would a buyer say? Not you, who's lived in the home for 5, 10 years, but what would a buyer say, and what would you rate it? Again, that's another question that's going to help you on your CMA and not have you surprised when you get to that property, hopefully. What price would you put the home on the market for if you listed it today? They may say that's why I'm hiring you, or that's why you're coming out to the appointment. No problem, right? But they may also say, I keep an eye on the market. I know what it could go for. I think it should go for this amount. Gives you an idea, because when you pull your CMA, you can be like, okay, they're extremely realistic or extremely unrealistic, right in the middle, right? You're gonna find out something there, and so we just want to find out what that is. I'm creating a net sheet for you, Mr. and Miss Seller, and I want it to be as accurate as possible. Can you tell me what you owe on the home? Some people are not comfortable asking this. It's totally up to you. But if you want to provide that net sheet, which we'll look at in a second, to be as accurate as possible, if they give you an answer there, that's why you ask it like that, because you can be very accurate with it. And again, we'll go into that in a second. Next question: what's the most important thing for you that you're looking for in a real estate agent that sells your home? So this really helps set you up again for your appointment, right? To maximize the time that you're going to have with them. This really helps set that up, because if they say, I want someone who can market it out to, 1 million people and all over Facebook and all of that, versus I just want the person who's going to get the highest price, or I need to be out of here in 10 days, or whatever that answer is. Now you at least can take that and filter it and funnel it into your system, into what you can do for them, rather than just showing up at the appointment asking this and now having to adjust on the fly. Oh, you like social media marketing? Let me go to my page and show you, or I don't have any, and let me now try to combat that. Right? The more information you have up front. Do you have any questions for me before we meet? And then number 10 here: will all decision makers be at our meeting? We've probably all met clients where there was another decision maker as part of that process, either going to be actually on the deed, or they were just an extreme, person, an extreme case where another person needs to be helping in that decision, right? And so that's a good question to ask, to make sure that you maximize your time and their time, because you do not want to go to an appointment where, say it's a husband-wife scenario and you're meeting with one of the spouses, and then they're relaying your information to that other person, because you're always going to get the, well, I need to meet with my husband, wife, whatever, to talk about this. Now you're out of the equation. It's between them two, right? And the decision's probably already been made. So that's a tough one. So highly recommend, both people being there. And if they say, well, they can't be there on Sunday at 2, then say, how about Sunday at 4, or Monday at 1, or whatever. Try to find something where you aren't just yes or no and okay, I'm done. Try to give some solutions so you can get there in front of all the decision makers, if at all possible. You don't want to have to do this twice, and also you run the risk of only being able to do it once, and then not even being able to do it twice for that other person. This one you can, or you don't have to ask. You can, or don't have to ask this one. Are you interviewing other agents? I think it's a good one, just to chat about. Know what you're going against. Again, you don't have to ask some of these, or you can, however level of comfort you have. But I think it's a good one to get some insight, because the other thing that comes out of that is, yeah, my cousin Steve is an agent. He's already given me a CMA, and now you're dealing with another agent that's a family member, right? So now you can kind of go that route. Um, the second to last one here is more of a statement. I'm going to email you a pre-listing package that is important to our meeting, whatever meeting you're setting up, and to the success of your home selling. Would you please take 5 minutes to review it before we meet? I'll show you what's going to go in that package. But again, this is all about getting information, being the professional, showing up at that appointment time where you can really focus on them and not all of the other stuff that we normally focus on inside of maybe a cloud CMA or our listing presentation. So I'll show you more of that. And then our meeting should take between 45 minutes and an hour, or adjust whatever your normal meetings are, including all the paperwork. And that's an important piece to put in there, right? All the paperwork, meaning listing agreement, things like that. Does that work for you? And again, that's the respecting of their time, but also setting expectations that this is not a 15-minute meeting. We need 30, 45 to an hour of time there. So I highlighted a few of my favorites out of this one that I for sure would ask at a bare minimum. And this would be just because you have an appointment that afternoon with them and you have 5 minutes to ask them questions. Those would be the ones that I would go for. Why are you selling? What's the most important thing in an agent? Do you have questions? And will all decision makers be there? But I think all of them, or at least a combination of about 10 of these questions, are very important for you to ask, just to have the most information. So we talked about that pre-listing package that we're actually going to send to the seller, right? So what's in it? It can be as complicated as you want it to be. It can be as simple as you want it to be. A few things that I think are important to be in there is your marketing. Now that can be inside the cloud CMA. We'll try to take a look at the end of class, if we have time, how to get that in your actual cloud CMA so you don't have to do it every time. It's just built in there. But some form of your marketing, if you've done other listings, right? Or if you are good at social media just in general and maybe you're new, some examples of that. An absorption report, if you've never run that, we have a great video on our YouTube channel. We'll try to look at that after this class as well, or at the end of this class. And then a cloud CMA. We've all, hopefully run those and know how to navigate there, live or print for the meeting, but obviously, printed to PDF or downloaded as a PDF for you to actually send this to your client. And then that net to seller sheet. And again, I'll show you how to download that, how to use it. It's very easy to use. But a lot of sellers ask for that, especially in this marketplace, kind of what could I walk away from, this house with, and that's not an accounting spreadsheet for you. It's just an estimate, right? So the exclusive listing agreement, that's in there too, because you want to give them the prep of, this is a listing agreement. Obviously, it's not going to have everything filled out there, but you will bring one filled out with you to the listing appointment, because that's going to solidify the relationship there so you can move forward and start marketing the property. So this is your pre-listing package, right? The next step after you put all of that together is just send it, right? Download it, add it to a personalized email, send it to them, and call or text just to verify that they've received it. Again, this is setting up, saving their time and your time when you're meeting. You're going to go through the cloud CMA with them and those type of details, but you want them to be able to see it multiple times, right? If the first time they've ever seen anything about you is when you're there with them, that's a lot happening, right? Especially for a lot of sellers, they're meeting you, they're trying to get to know you, and they're trying to digest all of this info. If they at least have 5 minutes a day between your call and the presentation that you're going to have with them to read some of that info, understand you a little bit, research you, then that's going to put you in a leg up, right? They say you need, I think it's like 7 times for people to start remembering you, right? When you see different things. So that's just another time that they're seeing you, they're seeing your information, your professionalism, and it's emailed. So it's not like you had to print out a bound copy, mail it, priority mail, which you can do. There are agents that do that, print and then send it. But the way we're talking about today is kind of an easier send by just doing it through email. Does anyone currently do a pre-listing package? I'm curious. Some form. It doesn't have to be like this, but some form of information sent over beforehand. I see quite a few heads shaking yes, so that's awesome. I love that the idea of agents doing that. I think it just further solidifies, and I'm glad there's some people out there that are already doing that. So that's an idea. You can use a lot of different things in this. You can send videos. Agents, get really creative and have maybe a personalized video in front of the neighborhood, or I don't know if you want to necessarily go in front of their house and create a video before the meeting and send it, but maybe in front of the neighborhood, or just a promotional video that you shoot, or just taking your iPhone, turning it around and saying, I can't wait to meet with you on Sunday at 3. I'm going to send you over these things, and then emailing that or texting that, and then emailing your email with the information. Okay. So that's an easy way to just think about it. You're just trying to get in front of them. So now we're actually at the presentation. So we've sent the pre-listing package. We've confirmed that they have it. It's the next day or 2 days later or whatever time you're actually going to meet with that client, right? So there's a lot happening. We want to try to break it down into just a few ways to think about it. And so you're at the seller's home. We're going to think about greet, view, and review. So greet the client, greet the seller, view the home, and then review all of the stuff that we've sent, and especially the pre-listing package, right? I mean, that's the really important thing there. So we'll break these down even further and just give a few topics on greeting the seller. We all know how to how to greet people, but arriving 10 minutes early or 5 minutes early, be there early, right? There are people who you show up late, they're probably going to cross you off the list if they're interviewing multiple agents. And so, try to get there early, drive the neighborhood if you're there super early, go check out the amenities. Does it back up to something else? Hopefully, you know that information and you've seen it before. But if you didn't, then now's your time to do that. Dress professionally, bring a warm greeting and a smile. And that's the key there. And then the kitchen table, right? That's the place where probably you're going to meet at after. And we talk about the tour in detail a little bit in the next slide. But the kitchen table, asking that client after you've done the initial greet, thank you for having me out here type thing, is can I set my things down at the kitchen table while we take a look at the property. And so again, that's that central hub. You're setting it up for when you're coming back later and actually sitting down and reviewing all the stuff, because now what you want to do is tour the home and talking to the client about that you want to view the home through the eyes of a potential buyer, and if they'd be so kind to show you around the property. And so now you're walking with them. You're going to go take a look at viewing the actual home. So at the kitchen table, you set down everything except for a notepad, your iPad, whatever you like to write with, and actually have that on the tour with you, right? It's impressive when people can remember orders of food, like a million different things, and they come back and everything's accurate. But the show of you writing down the information shows that seller that you're taking notes, that you're interested in what's happening as they are giving you their time too. So I think it's important to show the sellers that you're writing down notes as they're walking you through the property. You're writing down notes about updates. You're also writing down notes about needed repairs. They may have not told you on that phone call because they didn't think it was a big deal, but you look up and you see a big water stain on the ceiling, or you see a part of the carpet that's torn out, or whatever it is as you're walking through, and you're being able to write down this information. It's also helping you because you've already sent a cloud CMA and you have your cloud CMA today, and it's helping you come up and finalize that price, because on that cloud CMA you didn't put a suggested price, you just gave them the comps. Today is when you're going to talk about the actual pricing. So this is all, you're taking your cloud CMA information, you're walking the property with the seller, and then you're coming up with a range price that you think the home could sell for or should sell for in this market. So all of these things help you get there. You're also writing down commonalities, pictures on the wall of animals, or sports teams or things like that. You're also just trying to set that up so that future contacts, you talk to them about how's their animal, how did you see that game, whatever it is. You have to write down some of these things. You can't remember everything, or at least I can't. So I recommend writing it down. Interact with the seller on the tour. You're looking again for those connection points, and then really looking through the home. And what that means is sometimes you'll go into a home that You know, you've never seen that layout, or there's something in there that's hidden that is really a benefit to the property, but maybe you didn't open up that walk-in closet and see how massive it is, or you know, a renovation that was done in a part of a house, maybe in like in more of an attic space, that's normally just an attic, but if you open the door and look, you see this, you know, really good room that you can help market the property with. And sometimes the seller will say, hey, go look at that. Or sometimes they're just going to kind of show you and see if you, you know, ask to see it. So checking out the windows, all of the stuff that's built into the home, again, trying to help you price out that property as best possible. So really look through the home, not just glance in the room, leave, glance in that room, 5 second, now you're at the kitchen table. You know, really look through it. After the tour, you know, in this scenario, you're sitting down with the client, thanking them for their time. You're at the kitchen table, and now we're going to review the marketing and listing information. And you've already done all of the hard work. You've done the marketing, the absorption report, net seller sheet, listing agreement, and whatever else you want to do for the listing presentation. So you've already done all of that. You have all of that. They have all of that because you emailed it to them. And so now you have a print copy of at least the listing agreement, probably the net to seller and the CMA. You may be able to do all of this digitally, you know, on your laptop or on your iPad if you want to. Some clients will ask for, you know, a hand copy because maybe they didn't print out the one that you emailed them. So you have all of this. Now it's time to review it. Again, Cloud CMA print version, that's the one on the left. The live CMA, which if you haven't done that before, that's a great option to do on your desktop or your iPad right there with the client. It is very interactive, a lot more interactive than the PDF that would be more suitable for like print. And then we also have a digital listing presentation on Vision you could download and make your own out of a PowerPoint. If I were doing this right now for a client, I would definitely print out the Cloud CMA PDF version, have that physically in hand, but then I would review that live CMA there with the client. Now it does require internet access, so plan accordingly. You know, make sure your phone's set up for a hotspot or something like that. That way you don't have to ask the client for their Wi-Fi password. But you know, go through that, have it right there on your computer, and you can look at live, you know, live pictures, scroll through the pictures. It's really nice, really interactive if you've never done that version. It's just right there beside the download PDF version in Cloud CMA. So you have that, you're going through the information, you're talking about the comps, you're talking about the pricing, you know, you're having your range because now you've walked through the property, right? You probably had maybe a good, better, best, or a low, middle, high scenario in your head from the work you've done on the Cloud CMA and tax records and any information you can find based on what the neighborhood is, right? Maybe there's properties that are middle of the road, some that are not updated at all, and then some that are really updated. And so now as you're walking through the property, you're like, okay, this one's middle of the road, or maybe it's one of the other categories. And now your range of pricing, you know, comes into play for all the homework you've done. And so now when you're sitting down with that client, when you're talking about the pricing, that's where you're going to be able to bring that information in. So you have the presentation, the marketing, all of the other stuff that you've already gone through, and now you're going to go through the listing agreement with them, right? You've already sent them a copy of a listing agreement just so they know what's there. Bring a copy of the listing agreement with you, obviously, and have all of my recommendation is have all of the information typed in, not handwritten in. I mean, you can handwrite it, but I recommend typing it all in except for the listing price and obviously their signature. And so you're going to talk about the listing price right there with them. They're going to sign it right there with you. If you make this as easy as possible for them, you're helping them, you know, do this too, right? This is not only something that's going to help you in your process, but it's also going to help them. So type in all of the information. You're going to discuss pricing with the seller. And the goal is to guide and inform them, right? You're the guide. You're the person that's going to help that. And really, this is the question. How will you make their selling process as easy as possible for them, right? And this whole thing that we're talking about, That's what we're trying to do. So all of this other information can be filled in. You can find all of the tax records. You can find where you're going to market it in the MLS systems. The listing period you can go ahead and fill in, right, for whatever normal term period you're doing there. 3, 6 months, maybe a year if it's a really difficult home to sell or something like that. But you can have all of that filled in. The worst case scenario is they say, I'm not going to give you a 4-month listing agreement, and you strike it right there, and you fill in 3 months or 2 months or whatever it's going to be with initials, right? The only thing being the price on this page and then the signature on the last page that they'll need to actually fill in right there. And so they love you, everything's great. Once signed, get ready to market the home. We all know that's exactly how all of these scenarios go. But you've brought a lot to the table, right? You've given them information about their property, about the comps, your marketing, what you're going to do to help sell the property. And so another class will go through all of those exact details, and we'll go into a little bit more about it here just in our time today. So potential hurdles when you're talking to the client. Just the offer, right? And again, these are things that you're talking to your clients that you're bringing to the table to help them through the process. On the offer, the types of financing, on the inspections, that's a big one, right? Items that you may want to help them address before they even go to contract, right? As you're walking through that property, making those notes, and then some things that they can pay for, right? Like carpet or whatever, that you just like give them a heads up. Hey, most buyers are probably going to, and maybe not in today's market, but most buyers may ask for carpet to be replaced because it's just shredded. And so they may ask for more closing costs to cover that type thing. So you prepping the seller so they're not surprised when that inspection comes. And then the other thing is the appraisal, right? Helping them understand what an appraisal is, because you're not just helping them get the property with the sign in the ground and praying, right? You're helping them through this entire process. And so potential roadblocks that could cause, things you'll be looking for on the offers that come to them. The more you educate and explain to them what's happening, the more of a professional they're going to understand that you are. And then the final walk, right? What does that look like? Most buyers have a final walk. This is what that part of the equation looks like. And this is how I'm going to help you, when we get to that. And then what happens at closing. And the way to think about that is, and you can say this to clients, right, is the home, we really have to sell this thing 4 times: at the offer, at the inspection, at the appraisal, and then at the final walk and closing, right? So we're not done with this once we go under contract. I'm here for the entire process. And, I'm going to help this home get sold, 4 times. You may be able to phrase that a little differently, but that's that part. 3 main factors before we get to the prep and market. Sorry. Condition, price, and location. Can't really change location that much or at all. The price you can control, and the condition you can control. And so when you're talking to a client, and I've seen this style of slide we're looking here shared in about 3 or 4 different categories, but I think a lot of it falls into this: the condition of the property, the price of the property, and the location. Those are kind of the main 3 factors, and a lot can go underneath that. So when you're explaining it to sellers, let's break it down like this. We want to make sure the property is ready to go when we get it marketed, so that we can sell for the best price and the best terms for you as we go through there. And that's assuming everything's in the MLS, just visible, right? Oranges or apples to apples, not apples to oranges.